Okay, hi brothers and sisters, just back to do this video that's probably going to be quite long, and I promised in my notes under the last video that I would show you the picture I had drew in my journal. This is the journal. I got 4 of them, and they were, I was writing in them in 2018-19, I think maybe at the end of 2017, I'm not sure. Let me check the book here. This is book 2. And this is 18, so it's probably 18 because this is September. I see I started it, yeah, and I started it in August. So the first one is probably the beginning of 2018. So I got 4 of these. I got 2 of the reddish and 2 of the silver. Not that that matters to you, but I did write this. I drew this picture. I had this vision early morning, September 10th, as I woke up, and that would have been in September. And I drew it, and I believe. All right, now, sometimes if I don't write down every detail, I tend to forget them, unless there's with such clarity, and very recent, right? Because you have so much stuff going on inside your brain all the time, or I do. But I believe I was standing in front of the 8 ball, looking at it. I'm not 100% sure. I might have been standing in front of it and not looking at it. But I do believe I was in front of it. Now, whether I was looking at it or I was turned against, I can't remember. But this is the picture I drew. I promised I'd show it. And though the 8 ball itself was white, I've got it colored silver, sorry. I should have just left it white and clear. And the 8 in the center had multi-colors all around it. That's what it had. That's what it looked like in the dream. So you can make of that what you will. But anyway, I had promised I'd show it because I had wrote it in the notes, and there it is. And so we have, wow, do we have tons of information to go over on this video. I may even have to stop the video because there's just so much information in this. And, I mean, anybody that's actually been along on the videos, I'm sure you're beginning to piece many of the passages together that actually relate to one another. And I have the passages. I went through all my binders and I found the passages, tried to find them all, that I would have to reference so I wouldn't have to mess with my camera too much. And my desk is a mess. Needs cleaning up. And we discussed rod of iron, or the scepter, that we found in Ezekiel 21, and it is clearly her speaking. Anybody who study the divine feminine, you're able to link. Now, it takes a series of passages in order to do it. It doesn't just come like that. I mean, it takes hours and hours and hours of studying in the Word and understanding what this passage is saying, what this passage is saying, what this passage is saying, what this chapter is saying, and it takes years to really be able to link it all together. You can't do it like that. I know. So we're going to look at the rod of iron. We were going to look at iron. And it's going to link us to the scepter, right? Sorry, my nose itches. And so in Daniel 2, and this is going to be, I'll start something at this point, all right? But then maybe 20 minutes into the video, we'll add another point to it, and I may forget the first point. So it might be good to go in and watch the videos and write all of your references down so you yourself can go in and connect them and understand what it is I'm trying to get at, because I can't always do it in the manner that I need to or want to. So Daniel 2:40, so we're going to be looking at iron, that metal iron, and the rod, all right? And so in Daniel 2:40, and what does it say? The 4th kingdom shall be strong as iron. That's what it says. For as much as iron breaketh in pieces and subdueth all things, and as iron that breaketh all these, shall it break in pieces and bruise. 41. And whereas thou sawest the feet and toes part of potter's clay, and part of iron. So both of these elements is present in the 4th kingdom, right? And what does it say? And the fourth kingdom shall be strong as iron. For as much as iron breaketh in pieces and subdueth all things. Right? Iron subdueth all things. What iron? What iron subdueth all things in the end? Well, we're going to find that verse in short order, I think. Maybe not. Breaketh all these, shall it break in pieces and bruise. And whereas thou sawest the feet and toes part of potter's clay, so it's partly weak, and part of iron is partly strong, the kingdom shall be divided. This fourth and final kingdom is divided between the weak and the strong. But there shall be in it. This is the interesting passage that caught me to do with the iron. But there shall be in it of the strength of iron. So the iron is in this kingdom. For as much as thou sawest the iron mixed with miry clay, and as the toes of the feet were part of iron and part of clay, so the kingdom shall be partly strong, partly broken. Look at that. And whereas thou sawest iron mixed with miry clay, they shall mingle themselves with the seed of men, but they shall not cleave one to another, even as iron is not mixed with clay. Now, what we realized was in Lamentations, was it 4:1, that the sons in that chapter is actually compared to gold, the sons of God, which would have been the sons of Zion, sons of Israel. Israel is known as God upon this earth, and it was through the divine feminine that was known as God upon this earth. That's why Israel then gets to be known as God wrestles. So you have the righteous spirit or scepter wrestling with the harlot spirit that man exalts in his heart, that you find in Isaiah 47, where she says, no one sees me, I will never be widowless, I will never be childless. So it says you will cleave to your wife, right? It says to the first Adam, you will cleave unto your wife. Then you'll find other passages where it says you will cleave unto your Lord. You will cleave. There's a reason why you get that doubled, that feminine aspect in it, because it's the feminine speaking that was rejected. And so why aren't they cleaving together? They're not cleaving together anymore. Why? Why aren't they cleaving together? I think we already have our answer. If you've been along with me on this journey, they finally wake up. The Lord finally wakes up, right? But they shall not cleave one to another. So the righteous spirit that is still inside of this kingdom, which is referenced as your iron, through your daughters of Zion, I will make your horns of iron and your hooves of brass, and you will beat in pieces many people, many nations, and you will consecrate their gain unto the Lord of the whole earth. So they're not going to cleave one to another. Why? Because the clay that's in existence, they were like gold in the beginning when they were hearkening, and what we realized in Lamentations 4:1 was that the sons were offering up a blood libations on the corners of the streets, it says, and it looks like it was their mothers, known as the Holy One, where you to receive the living waters from. That's why you have Job saying, I made a covenant with mine eyes. Why then should I think upon a maid? For what portion of God is there from above? The inheritance of the Almighty from on high. The Almighty is mother, and her inheritance is her daughter. That she gives man in covenant to teach him her ways, her laws. That's why you find her in Proverbs 1. And she says, fine, when I called you wouldn't listen. You wouldn't respond to my laws. You kept on your merry way. You kept on with these heavy yokes, particularly yoking your sister. And I said, fine. In your day of calamity, I'm going to mock you. Right? That's what she says. But that's a very important passage, because the Lord that's mocking is wisdom there. She says, I'm going to mock you. And when you call out to me, I'm not going to answer you because you wouldn't answer to me. And so it takes you to Psalm 2, to the Lord that's sitting on the throne there, mocking and has them in derision and sends a rod of iron. That's why those two passages are so heavily connected. And it's 136 there. And we're going to get into more detail here. All right? So, but we see the iron. She's no longer clinging to fallen Adam's lie. That's what the apostasy is really about. She's turning away. She's turning away from Baal's religious lies that exalts he as God. and she is returning back to her mother. That's right. Return, return. What might we see when the Shulamite returns, as it were, the company of two armies? Or Mahanaim, the presence of God. In Isaiah 63, she says, where is she who put her spirit upon Moses? And she says, I will pull you out of many waters. It's not talking about Moses there. It's talking about the divine feminine there, that was placed on earth to teach man the laws of Mother Wisdom from above, who is the Almighty, the Ancient of Days sitting on her throne. But that's a man. Yeah, that's a man. Because Baal wanted it so. And but she says, I'm not going to rule through no harlots. You know, these daughters that wants to bow, can you imagine what we look like out there? To the righteous daughters who knows the truth, and to the righteous sons who knows the truth. They must be looking and go, wow, when are they ever going to wake up? When? They must love playing the harlot. Let her eyes look upon Zion. Let her be defiled. That's what the men of this world said. That's why the iron is no longer cleaving to him. These sons became as clay. They came down from gold. And you see it on that image of that the king dreamed about, and was of multiple metals, and it comes straight down from being valued as gold right down to the value of a clay pot. That's what these sons then become likened to in Lamentations 4:1, after they murder their mothers on the cornerstones and begin to offer up a blood libation as opposed to a water libation, which was to be found through the mother's sword. That's right, her word governed the kingdom. And and was to teach the daughters this. And when the mothers were murdered, the women of wisdom were murdered, then the daughters began to fall into that trap, that snare that got set by the men, where they began to teach themselves Baal, right? They began to prophesy through Baal. And Baal leads right back to your husband. 1167, I believe, is your word. 1168 is Baal, the god. But 1168 is absolutely derived from that word. 1167, you backtrack one, it means your husband. Archers who shot at the true Zions, or Scions, branches, daughters, as they passed over the gates of David. And we're going to link them all to this rod, all right, of iron, and the power of the real kingdom, the scepter that she expects to truly rule through. So Daniel 2:44, and in the days these kings, it says, I don't think it's kings. I actually am going to change this to queens. And I'm telling you this, all you who actually watch me and are subscribed, you know I've done this. And in the days of these queens shall the God of heaven set up a kingdom which shall never be destroyed. And the kingdom shall not be left to other people, but it shall break. This kingdom's going to break. That means in pieces and consume. That's the iron, right? At all these kingdoms, and this one shall stand forever, right? So this iron is going to be transformed, right? And so that actually links us to that mountain in Zechariah 4 that grows into the mountain. Actually, it says a stone cut out without hands smashes the toes of clay and iron. But it's the iron that comes out of that kingdom that does the smashing of the toes and brings down that false image in Daniel 2 as that rock cut out without hands. And then you find God saying in Isaiah 51, and we've linked Isaiah 51, Isaiah 52, and Psalm 89 back in a manner that absolutely will help you to understand who the right hand of God is. So, Isaiah 51, listen to me, you who pursue righteousness, the truth. You are really seeking the truth. Who seeks the Lord, look to the rock from whence you were hewn from, cut from, and to the quarry from which you were digged from. So here we've identified that from this chapter and the following one in Psalm 89, that it is the daughters of Zion in view. They're cut from their mother. Mother Israel from above, who gives life to all things. But when these daughters began to turn away from the covenant of their mother, and they were gave in covenant to teach them in the laws of heaven. Now we see this being perpetuated against them. They did stand their grounds at time, but over time they did lose the ground that they had stood upon. They did lose it. And so then you find her saying in Ezekiel 21, I got a test. It's a trial. The controversy of Zion. And you want to be careful, because if the sword, the word, condemns the rod that you're suggesting I, the Holy One, must rule through, she says, then she says, none of you is going to make it. I'll wipe you all out of existence. I'll cut you all away. And that's to be understood in the scriptures. That's not me making it up. It's there when you go in and you study for the hard truth. Then you are told you are cut from your mother when you do that. And wisdom will teach you. She will bring you in the pathway of truth. That's what she says. Okay, so Micah 4:8. For any who doubts it, that aren't. What does it say in Micah 4:8? And thou, O tower of the flock, fortified hill of daughter Zion, the former rule will come to you again. That's right. And that's the sovereign Lord, 136. That's who daughter Zion's number is linked to, because she is the rod out of Zion. That's a scion. That's those daughters of Zion, that were passing over the wall, because what we realized was King Solomon daubed up their gateways and changed the portion in the midst to a harlot spirit that would teach his laws and lies upon this earth, and in effect shut off the righteous scions, the daughters of Zion, who flowed like a living water from the north. That's right, the north kingdom. Bashan, Lebanon, that was God's mountain. That's right, Lebanon. And where the congregation of the north met, identified as a group of women who published the word throughout the kingdom and taught God's laws and truth, which again you can easily identify her in Psalm 68 as 136. She was burned to ashes. She laid as an ash heap, it says, amongst the folds. And then she is akin to the dove, the turtle dove. Her wings are silver and gold. That's right. And but the scion here is, how do we link this? Psalm 110. Mother is speaking to her son who sits to her right, whose number is 113. He is holding the order of Melchizedek. I believe that's the highest order a male can hold in the heavenlies, a male son. He was chosen by her. She provided him, and she taught him her laws. Mother Wisdom did. And he exalted them. By exalting the mother, he exalts the daughter. To his right sits the strength of his rod, his branch, his scion, out of Zion. And the wrath belongs to her. And the wrath is hers because she's the one that bore the double upon her head. Tell Israel that her warfare is ended, for she has borne double upon her head. All right? Now she's been fighting to get both covenants in her possession, to which we find her actually standing in Revelations chapter 1, where she says, I now hold the keys of hell and of death. That means these are my covenants, to do with what I will when I want. And that's what I think it means so far. Now, so we see that rod identified as daughter Zion's number, 136. That's right, the sister Christ's right hand, who is the sovereign Lord over the entire kingdom. And she is terribly angry at what the kings of the earth took decree and counsel together to wipe her law out of the land, which is identified as 10 covenants. That we see Moses, who went up to Mount Sinai and received the 10 commandments from her. How do we know that? Well, let's go there. Let me see if I can find it right quick. I wrote it down. So she tells us this distinctly for anybody who wants to actually study. Where is it? I have so many passages wrote down. It is found in Deuteronomy 4. Yeah, okay, so I do write it here at the bottom. Deuteronomy 4. Why can't I? Okay, 12. Then the Lord spake to you from the midst of the fire, You heard the sound of words, but you saw no form, only a voice. That's right. Because she had not taken a form. She had not chosen a form. She chooses her scepter, which is between the feet of Judah, which comes from her firstborn Ephraim, because Shiloh is in the territory of Ephraim, in case nobody can draw that connection. And he's not the one that sends her. It's Mother 3068 in Psalm 10 that sends the strength of his branch out of Zion. She does it. And she's in Shiloh, the territory of Ephraim. She is identified as the firstborn of the kingdom. That's right, it's the daughter that is the firstborn. And she is 136. She sits to Christ's right hand, or Joshua's right hand, the man's right hand, who was chosen to teach the laws, and that he would uphold them. And so it's her wrath that pours out on the kings who turned and took counsel to wipe her out of being a nation. And anyway, it says, so we're establishing what she gave the law system here. In Deuteronomy 4:12, then the Lord spake to you, from the midst of the fire you heard the sound of words, but you saw no form, only a voice. So she was still waiting to take a form. 13, so she declared to you her covenant made in strength, which was in Genesis 49, in Joseph's blessings, 23-24, her covenant, her bow abode in strength. Bow is a symbol of a covenant. So, which she commanded to perform, that is, what's the covenant? Deuteronomy 4:13, the 10 Commandments. She states it right out, what her covenant was. The 10 Commandments. And she wrote them on 2 tablets of stone, to which when Moses went back down to the people, he sees what they're doing. They're actually defiling the glory of Israel, which were the daughters of Zion, your females, who were your leaders and your rulers with the law. They didn't rule like with whip. They came to give you the good things of heaven, is what they were here for. And what he saw was they had made a calf. He had seen that Egypt's religious idols had followed the children of Egypt out of Egypt. And so they were actually making an idol of a calf, a male, by the way. It was a male. So they had changed the glory, number one, from a human being to an animal. She says you changed your glory into an animal. And not only to just an animal, but to a male, is what they did. So, she says, she wrote them on 2 tablets of stone. The stone of Israel comes from Joseph's blessings. That's what we're told. We're looking at the stone here. And she's identified in scriptures as a feminine, which is Ephraim, the firstborn. That's right. So, Psalm 68, verse 13, though you lie among the ash heaps, yet shall ye be as the wings of a dove, covered with silver, and her feathers with yellow gold. And that's interesting, because that's actually the queen in her field, I think. Elul 1, which just so happens to hit on Og 9th, which is kind of taking you to the rod of iron again, being established in the land, that iron that's going to smash the toes of that false image in Daniel 2. And so, okay, so I'm going to go back to that in a minute, because I ain't done this yet. So it says the former rule will come to you. That's sovereignty. And that's your sovereign Lord, daughter Zion's number 136. To daughter Jerusalem. Micah 4:12. But they know not the thoughts of the Lord, neither understand they her counsel. For she shall gather them as the sheaves into the floor. Arise and thresh. Oh, daughter. It doesn't say, oh, sons. And you could say, well, no, the feminine gave life to these nations. Yes, she did, but she also stood for them. She fought for them. And she's still fighting for them in the heavenlies. And she's been waiting for a scepter, right, that she can rule through. That's what she's been waiting for. She says, I'm not ruling through no harlot. And if you don't listen to me when I appear, that's what wisdom says, and my laws, I will send a rod of iron instead. And we're going to see that. And that rod of iron is what gets sent into the kingdom to smash the toes on that false image of a king as your Lord and ruler in Daniel chapter 2. So I will make thine horn iron, and I will make thy hooves of brass. And thou shalt beat in pieces many people, and I will consecrate their gain unto the Lord, and their substance unto the Lord of the whole earth. So Daniel 2:45. For as much as thou sawest that the stone was cut out of the mountain without hands, that's representing the Spirit reborn upon the earth again, and that it brake in pieces. Where am I now? I never know how I wrote this out. Okay, so I was just leading the thought for you there, I think is what my intention was. And that it break in pieces, right? So it's this stone, these daughters who are the iron as the Spirit reborn upon the earth. That's why she's cut out without hands. And it says, hearken to me, you that follow after righteousness, after the truth. You daughters who are seeking my truth. Ye that seek the Lord, look unto the rock from whence you were cut from. That's Zion. You were cut from Zion, Mother Jerusalem, who is the mother above. She came off us. There appears to be, like I said, a real power. And I don't know if I should share this with you because you'll call me crazy and I'm talking about myself again. But there seems to be a real sense that if you're going to take this sword to yourself, or you're going to try to pull, you're going to shape a sword out of that rock, all right, in a sense is that what that iron becomes. It becomes shaped into a sword. It becomes the word, the water upon this earth. That if you don't know how to handle the word of truth, if you don't know how to handle the true laws of heaven as gave by Mother Wisdom in the beginning, known as Israel upon this earth, that it'll burn you. It's going to burn you. So you better have a good handle on the Word of God, on the truth of God, on what Mother considers righteousness in the land, if you're going to put your hand to that sword. Otherwise, it just might burn you. And I know it's, you see it in movies, right? You see it with Arthur, King Arthur. It's not a man that's going to grab that sword. They always, that's the lie in the land. That's the harlot spirit too, that teaches him as God. And why she pulled her power off the daughter. She said, not going to be that way. And that's why we carry this heavy yoke upon us. A yoke of iron is actually what it's likened to too. But anyway, okay, so I was going to tell you something. I don't know that I should. Maybe I'll keep it to myself. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have brought it up. Anyway, so what does it mean to have your mettle tested? All right, this came up. Because if you're going to take part in this standing up for Mother God's laws upon this earth, she calls you her strong ones. She calls you a she-goat. A she-goat is a powerful climber, probably the most powerful. I almost think she's probably a better climber than the male in most cases, simply because she's lighter. In some instances, her horns ain't as big and as in the way as his. And she has more of a driving force because she has the babies with her. And so I think it's to their benefit to have that strength of heart to climb. And so when God says her strong ones, she's searching for her strong ones. And search takes you right back to the month of Elul. She is searching for her strong ones that are willing to stand for her truth upon this earth. And it is not easy coming from a Christian background that has taught you this religious lie your entire life, to go in, to erase the board clean, and to say to the Holy One, you teach me your truth, and to allow her to pull you along, because she will do it. I tell you, she will. But to test your mettle, and it was spelled M-E-T-T-L-E, Mettle is the courage to carry on. If someone wants to test your mettle, so when you look at Ezekiel 21, did I write it down? I have the chapter here. But I have a danger once I pull out of a thought that I'm never going back to it. So I have to be cautious when I do this. Let me see if I can find it right quick. I'll just keep my eye on. Okay, I got 37. I got what I need. But I have a lot of chapters. There it is. Okay, so it's Ezekiel 21. And so what's this? Oh, if I wrote down the chapter, the number of the verse, it would be helpful. Okay, I'll circle it. It is verse 13. Because it is a trial. All right, we discussed this on Ruth Abbey, my last video, which I actually didn't plan on posting, but I found it, and I knew exactly what I was looking at. Whether anybody believes that or not, I can't help it. Ezekiel 21, verse 13, because it is a trial. It is a testing. What is the day of the Lord? What are we told the day of the Lord is about? If you actually studied the word, it's about the controversy of Zion. What did we discover the controversy of Zion was really at the heart of it? It was about the dividing of the pleasant land into two covenants that you see in Allegory in Galatians 4. It's two women. One that becomes heavily yoked under man-made law that came from Sinai. Now, we just understood that the Lord that came from Sinai gave them the 10 Commandments the first time. When Moses went down with the 2 tablets of stone, it was again allegorical when he smashed them 2 tablets to the ground, what the nation of Israel was going to do to her covenant. They were going to cast her off. That's what they were going to do. And Moses saw it with his own eyes. In the making of the gold calf, they had already cast her off. They didn't want her covenant. They were not going to cleave to her, the men. The men. They were not going to cleave to her covenant. You want to know why? Because not only did Egypt's religious lies and idols follow them right out of the land, it stayed in their hearts, particularly the males, it states. They wanted meat in their baskets and all the goodies of Egypt. They couldn't let it go. And they say it was the men's gold. They had took half an earring to make that idol. They had went to their wives and their children, and they wouldn't give them the gold to make it. So something was going on. Something was up. And we're told then that Baalim tells Balak to go get his women to contaminate the woman's seed inside of Israel. And what was that contamination? It was about the law upon her mouth. She taught the 10 Commandments of heaven. That's what she taught. We were just in it. Deuteronomy chapter 4. She says, my covenant. And to uphold it and to keep it. The 10 Commandments of heaven. Why do you think Christ is shown walking the 10 Commandments? He is not walking the Torah. Man-made religious lies. Which was on the tongues of those harlots that got sent into the men of Israel to contaminate the woman's seed. Right? Yeah. So there comes to be a division, and she pulls off over time off of her daughters. And she says, I'm not ruling through a religious lie that has my daughters playing man's harlot and bowing to him as if he's God. That statue, Daniel 2. Why do you think the Lord that awakens in the Old Testament, in most of the Psalms, she's there, go look it up. She awakens as a warrior that has wakened up from being drunk on strong drink. And you see him putting the drink to her daughter's lips in Habakkuk chapter 2, 15 and 16, so they could look upon her nakedness. That means make her play his harlot and teach his religious lies and laws. To which you then see the Lord, she's angered by the idol that she sees standing. What's the idol she sees standing? It's found in Daniel chapter 2. That's where the idol is found standing, to which then you see this rock cut out without hands, smashing the toes on that false image. And then we're told in Zechariah 4 that this then grows into a mountain. Actually, it says it in Daniel too. Grows into a mountain itself upon the earth. And that is found in Zechariah 4 as your capstone, female, feminine. Yeah, that's right. And some says a pyramid is the only place where you'll get your cornerstone. Your cornerstone's feminine in the Old Testament. She was rejected. Cornerstone from the foundation of the world. They didn't want her foundation. They didn't want her covenant, the 10 commandments. They smashed them down. So then you see her coming from Mount Sinai. And she's angry. So she says, fine, let them have what they want. We'll make this go another way. And you see her in Psalm 68 as the Lord came from Sinai, who rode between the cherubs. Yeah, that's what it states. She's the high Lord that got rejected. But she says, I'm not going to rule through a harlot scepter. I'm looking for a daughter that can take hold of that sword and not get burned. It'll be no man. It won't be a man. No, it's going to be a woman. And we see the birthright identified as a thigh. A birthright belongs to a man, not a son. Birthright, can't reason that one out. That's too hard. Birthright. And then we see a sword in some places over her thigh, such as in Song of Songs. Now they want to say it's men standing there guarding the chariot of Solomon. It's women, and they're not guarding the chariot of Solomon. They're guarding the chariot of David, or the chariot of Joshua, or the new Adam, who is gave a new garment in Zechariah chapter 3. Yeah, he's gave a new body. To whence then he has to wait for his branch. Yeah, he has to wait for his personal scepter, which then she is the scepter, which is hard to comprehend, but she's the exalted Lord. She's the sovereign Lord. So mother's actually waiting for a daughter that is able to take hold of this sword and not get burned. That's right. And I have that allegory. I had it better. And so Ezekiel 21, we're looking at a testing, the controversy of Zion. The allegory is to two women, a harlot that is yoked under man-made religious lies and laws that teaches him as God, that image standing in Daniel 2, to which the iron will crush it, and we're told what the iron is in Micah chapter 4, verse 13. We just looked at it, and now there's a testing coming on, verse 13, Ezekiel 21, because it is a testing, a trying. And what if the sword, the word, my word, I'm the word upon this world. That's what her daughters represented. You don't believe me? Go to Proverbs 5. She was the water to wash you clean, which is another word for the law and the word of God upon this earth. And she flowed like a living water from where? The north. That's right, Lebanon, Mount Bashan. You'll also find that in Psalm 68, if you want to go look at that. So there's many other passages. I keep hitting at the same ones. I'm sorry. I don't mean to do that. But she says, because it is a testing, a trial. And what if the sword, the word, condemns even the scepter? What you expect me to rule through? I'm the word upon this earth, and you're telling me I've got to rule through the harlot's mouth? I don't think so. To which you then see her in Zechariah 11 being told by her mother to break her staves upon this earth and to come off. And it says the poor of the flock knew it. So those few daughters who had remained true to the covenant of mother knew what was going on. They knew that the harlot spirit was going to come into the midst and was going to fully take over the flock. That's right, the hosts of heaven. And that she broke that staff, and then she goes to the priest, the high priest of Israel, and then she sells her mantle, her glory. And she says, what do you think my glory is worth to you? And they give her 30 pieces of silver for it, and she thinks it's a good price. She says, that's a good price. And mother then says, who is the potter, she says, cast it to the potter's house, and I'm going to make you an even grander mantle, which comes in the new Adam, Christ Joshua, who receives his new body in Zechariah chapter 3. It's a matter of reasoning. But there's a testing coming. There's a testing, a great testing. And it's to test your mettle. That's what it's for. Mettle is the courage to carry on. If someone wants to test your mettle, they want to see if you have the heart to follow through when the going gets tough. Having the mettle to do something means you have guts. In short, you're a pretty impressive person. Whoever wrote this, I don't know, but that sounded a little silly to me. But certainly in God's eyes, she's looking for her strong ones, her daughters who will stand for her truth upon the earth as her scepter. And when that occurs, then she comes in upon as the spirit to that soul that'll take control of her scepter, you see, which is then links you back to Judah's blessing in Isaiah 49. The scepter will not depart from Judah's feet until the one to whom it belongs to, the one who can put her hand to that sword without being burned by it, right? So then we go to 1 Corinthians 1:27, so I'm just going to follow these out pretty fast. But God chose the foolish things of the world to shame the wise. So we were once, these righteous daughters of Zion were once called the wise ones upon this earth. And God chose the foolish things to confound their wisdom. What's that? Oh, a father and his children, and he gave life to everything. 3 males, no female. Yeah, and she was made to bow down as his doormat. Yeah, and she's yoked under the law. So God does so use the foolish things of this world to shame us. Really, we're shamed by this foolishness. Absolutely shamed, because you end up playing man's harlot in the process. So you'll want to flip it and say, no, it means this, right? But really, when you put it in its proper context, it does not mean what we think it means. God chose the weak things of the world to shame the strong. God actually chose the clay, males, identified as males, to shame the strong things of this world, which was the iron in the kingdom. The females, the daughters of Zion. I will make your horns of iron, I will make your hooves of brass, and you will dash in pieces many people, and you will consecrate their gain unto the Lord. The Lord is 3068, and whose image she's made in. That's right. She's technically the Lord of Lords. Yeah. And so you can look at it that way. Sure, we can flip it around and look at it the other way as well. Both are applicable. But certainly when you understand the true meaning of what's going on in the context of the telling of our fall and how it all came about, you can certainly read into that, just the allegory that I just told you. So Colossians 2:20. If you have died with the new Adam, all right? Meaning you are no longer subject to the principles of this world. What did he walk? He did not walk the Torah. That's what got him crucified. That's right. They dripped blood into her life by crucifying him. That's what they did. And we know we're not washed in blood. We are not. But the way to cleanse the land, that allegory is there, is to cut away those sons of Belial and Baal and Balak and the harlots that won't come away from that religious lie on their tongue. So that's one part of that blood covenant that come into existence. We know it's water, the Holy One that washes you clean with her words. So she says that in James. I don't know that I wrote that one down. James chapter 1 verse 18. She says, I have chose to, let me see. Let me look it up. So James 1:18, God says this, she, it's not a he, use your brain. Don't use the foolish things of the world to reason with. Come on, use your brain. 1:18, of her, it's got his, of her own will begat, she birthed you. Male don't birth. Let me see, I can't read it. She begat us with the word of truth. Water. You're washed in water. that we should be a kind of first fruits of her creatures. Yeah, her creation, not his, hers. He's part of her creation. That's the foolishness. She says, I laid the heavens out for myself, and I'll do the same for my daughter. What do you think she means there? She's talking children. I did that. As the glory, as the Almighty, I have the power to do that. Father, don't. So he says, if you have died with me to the spiritual forces of this world, the harlot spirit of this world, why, as though you still belong to the world, do you submit to its regulations, to that foolish lie, to those foolish things that should confound you if you're wise enough to figure it out? So, where's the arm? Where is the remnant? Where is her scepter? Well, it's found here. Also wanted to find Deuteronomy 32, 36. Let me see if I wrote that one down. Okay, I didn't. I did not write that one down. But do I have Deuteronomy here? I'm pretty sure I got Deuteronomy here. I could just locate it. I might have two piles going here. Come on. Okay, it's not in that group. I got Deuteronomy called out. I'm sure I do. Unless I left it somewhere else, which is possible. Anyway, let's look it up. Sorry, I have Deuteronomy 32, 36 there for a reason. So, let's go to that. Deuteronomy 32, verse 36. Now, why do I have that circled? Okay, it says, for the Lord shall judge her people and repent herself for her servants, her daughters, when she seeth that their power is gone, right? And there is none shut up or left. So we're at the end here because we definitely have no power. She also states she's going to break the power of the holy people. And that power is the harlot spirit and the scepter that you expect her to rule through. She says, not going to do it. No way, not in a million years. So then we see this, all right? In Deuteronomy, in Zephaniah 3:18, I will gather them. Who gathers? Ephraim, the firstborn. And you can say it's actually Ephraim here being gathered, but the one doing the gathering is Ephraim, her firstborn, who she places her spirit upon, because then she becomes the sword, the scepter. And so she takes control of her and she's ruling through her. That's what you're looking at. Because she says, please do not leave my soul. Right? In one passage, if I actually have it here somewhere, she says, do not leave my soul defenseless. So she's asking for the spirit of the Holy One, which is the Almighty God and the ruler of the kingdom and all things, to come upon her and take possession of her as her power. And so that's kind of what you're looking at, I think. Zephaniah 3:18, I will gather them that are sorrowful for the solemn assembly, who are of thee, to whom the reproach of it, what's the reproach? Oh, this crazy, foolish lie. Father and his children. Yeah. Anyway, you'll be cut away. She says, if they won't learn the truth, well, then there's nothing left to give them but their blood covenant that they all seem to really want and be after. So, Zephaniah 3:18, I will gather them that are sorrowful for the solemn assembly. I'm going to lose power. Who are of thee, to whom the reproach of it was a burden. Behold, at that time I will undo all that afflict thee. And I will save her that halteth, and gather her that was driven out, and I will get thee praise and fame in every land where they have been put to shame. At that time will I bring you again, even in the time that I gather you, for I will make you a name. What name will she make them? Israel. Daughter Israel again, reborn. She says, I will rebuild you again, O virgin daughter of Israel. And a praise among all people of the earth when I turn back. Return, return, O Shulamite. What might we see when the Shulamite returns, as it was a company of two armies? That camp is identified as the Mahanaim, the presence of God. She says, where is she? It's got he. But where is she who put her spirit upon Moses? That was this Lord that you find in Psalm 68 as Hebrew number 136. You see her in Sinai, and to which you find them rejecting her covenant of 10 commandments. Deuteronomy 4, she said, this was my covenant, and you rejected it. And so I'll make them a praise among all people of the earth when I turn back your captivity before your eyes, says the Lord. Micah 4:16, in that day saith the Lord, will I assemble her that halteth, and I will gather her that is driven out, and her that I have afflicted, and I'll make her that halteth a remnant, and her, there's you got your remnant of Israel, her, she, these are your daughters, these are not sons. It's clearly identifying that. And her that was cast far off, a strong nation, and the Lord shall reign over them in Mount Zion. It says Israel's seed will fill the world with her fruit. So that's why you've got nations. Because they're all Israel now. That was the purpose of their casting away. To actually give her all of the nations. And they're going to be under her banner now. Right. From henceforth and forevermore, Jeremiah 31 verse 8, behold, I will bring them back from the north country. There we go. I love that word, north. North country. I'm from the north, but that's not the reason why. All right. North country, and gather them from the coasts of the earth, and with them the blind and the lame, the women with child, and her that travaileth with child together. A great company shall return thither. They shall come with weeping and with supplications. Will I lead them? Who's that? The Holy One of Israel. The Spirit returned back upon her. I will cause them to walk by the rivers of water in a straight way. This is important to pay attention to. I'm afraid I'm going to lose complete power here. Wherein they shall not stumble, for I am, it's got a father, a mother. She's identified in the scriptures in Isaiah 42:14. Wake up. They shall not stumble, for I am a mother to Israel, and Ephraim is my firstborn daughter, we'll say. That leads us to our understanding Isaiah 42:14, who's going to lead them. I have long time holding my peace. It's the restrainer, no longer restrained. I have been still, and I have restrained myself. She's the one sitting on her throne in the heavens, just waiting for her scepter to show herself. Now will I cry like a travailing woman. I will destroy, I will devour at once. I will make waste mountains and hills. I will dry up all the herbs, and I will make rivers, islands, and I will dry up the pools. And I will bring the blind by a way that they knew not. What did it say over here? They will walk by the rivers of water in a straight way. That's the way she's bringing them, the straight way. In a way that they knew not. I will make darkness light before them. She's the light. That's right. She's the light of the world. Israel is. I will make darkness light before them, and crooked things straight. These things will I do unto them, and not forsake them. Why? Because she is a mother to them, not a father. Oh, Father, Father, Father. Jeremiah 23. The wicked imaginations of their mind, their wicked devices to cut her off from being a nation. She. The attack was upon the woman's seed when Baalim told Balak to go get his harlots. Because those harlots was teaching man is God. You don't get the contamination, huh? And she says, I ain't ruling through that scepter. Get rid of it. And she does. She says, I'll cut it away. I'll destroy it. She smashes. That's the iron that comes out of the kingdom itself. The strength is reborn actually out of the kingdom itself through these daughters. Reborn. That's why they're cut out without hands. And for they shall be turned back. They shall be greatly ashamed that trusted in graven images. Daniel 2. That say to the molten images, ye are our gods. Well, there's images of male all over the place. Okay, so where else did we want to go? Wow, I did all of that. Okay, so Ezekiel 21 was 13, testing. And then that leads us to the verse we find in Isaiah 28, Verse 16, I will lay in Zion a tried and tested stone. That's right. She was your cornerstone from the beginning, your foundation stone. Go look the word cornerstone up in the Old Testament. You'll find it's female. And that's going to link you to your capstone, because your cornerstone on a pyramid, if I understand it correctly, not saying I got it 100%, it is the only structure that the cornerstone will lead straight up to the capstone. And it's the beginning is the end. That's what you've got there. And you find that capstone in Zechariah chapter 4. And and what even if the scepter which the sword despises, she despises the harlot spirit that bows to a man-made religious lie and a law system, does not continue, declares the sovereign Lord or Lord God. So then, son of man, prophesy and strike your hands together. So what does that mean? Does that mean to clap? I would say to strike your hands together. I don't think it means to snap, though it might mean snap. I didn't look the word up. So strike your hands together. Let the sword strike 2 times, even 3. It is a sword that slays, a sword, word, of great slaughter. Yeah. See, my battery's just about done. I should have plugged this, and I'm sorry. It is a sword that slays, right? A sword, a word of great slaughter, closing in on every side. All right. So, you know what? The word there, despises, 3988, to reject, abhor, despises, lightly esteem, disdain, becomes loathsome, melts away, refuses, reject, reprobate, vile, and person. And that's why, again, it leads us back to the scepter between Judah's feet, which is Shiloh, right? The scepter will not depart from Judah's feet till Shiloh comes. Yeah, the scepter shall not depart from Judah, nor a lawgiver. It was her law. From between his feet until Shiloh. Where was Shiloh? It's in the territory of Ephraim. So it's not Judah. It's Ephraim, her firstborn daughter. And she was rejected as a virgin-like lamb that they slayed before the foundation of the world. They did not want her in covenant. Okay. So, you know what? I'm going to leave it there. I'm going to pick it up in my next video. It'll be a part 2 of, part 8. So it'll be part 2, part 8. We'll pick it up in. I got a lot more to go over. Sorry about that. I should have plugged it in. I'll do another part tonight and hopefully finish up all that I have. It'll give me a chance to actually go back through and recheck what I didn't do. Thanks for watching. Pray the Lord blesses you with an abundance of truth. And I hope you all have a really nice day. Thanks.